Okay, now, so we're inside from the rain, away from training, and I've managed to get Vanessa to answer a couple of my questions. So we're going to discuss about the latest sort of form with the ladies. It reads loss, loss, win, win, loss, win of the last 6.
Right, okay.
And we were just discussing beforehand about how there's not been any draws so far this season. And I think that in actually is quite a positive thing in terms of the mentality of the team.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, we obviously every game we go out to, we intend winning, and that mentality has been all the way through since I was manager. You know, we don't treat any game differently. Whether it's coincidence that we haven't actually had any draws this year, because we did have a few when I was sort of managing the team, but you know, we always intend to win, and as you say, I think maybe it's a case that it's all out to win, and then sometimes, you know, if we are level and they happen to score a goal at the death or whatever, then, you know, that's unfortunate, but you know, our mentality is that we want to get 3 points from every game.
Absolutely. And also, as what you're saying about coincidence, you seem to have either 2 or 3 games in hand over most of the teams in the league.
Yep.
And that's obviously, you know, quite a positive thing to have under your belt as well.
Really.
But it could even, you know, you could even have more games under your belt in terms of, you know, you've got the cup games coming up, and with the weather as well, you never know what's going to happen.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds good on paper that you've got to catch up, but in my opinion is in the past experiences that you know, you really want to be playing games of football, because what you don't want to do at the end of the season is have 4 or 5 games all on the trot, and maybe have to sort of try and cram a midweek game into somewhere away to Keynsham or away to Charlton or something, and you know, that in itself could be a bit of a problem. So, you know, we would rather play games week in, week out, and have a realistic league table rather than something that we think, okay, well, we've got 4 games in hand, we'll get 12 points from those and we'll be at the top, because very rarely it works like that, unfortunately. But yeah, it's good to know that it's a possibility, and you know, if you look at the league table, which we all do and probably shouldn't, you know, the opportunity is there to get right up the top end. So yeah.
So you've got a scheduled game in the FA Women's Cup. It's the second round match against Keynsham.
Yes.
And if you manage to get through that one, you're going to face Lewis.
We are again.
So a team you're familiar with, no doubt.
We're very familiar with, yes. Yeah, they keep making us play them in cups, and we play them in the league. And yeah, it's they're a team that, you know, we've had very varying sort of results against, but we like to sort of harp on the last one really, when we won 5-1, I think it was. Down at
5 away goals.
Five goals at Haley Island. So, you know, that in itself was a fantastic result in awful conditions, much similar to tonight, to be honest. And perhaps we thrive on training in bad weather. So when we go out there on a Sunday, we're used to it. But no, that's what we reflect on. You know, the last performance, which was, we were far better than Lewis. And to be fair, the other games that we've played against them, where we've had narrow defeats, we've looked as though we're capable of beating them, and it's not for the lack of sort of the play, it's more, you know, the chances that we created just didn't happen to go in on the day. So, you know, we're confident about that game without any question. If we get there, of course, we've got to beat Keynsham first, and that's always a stumbling block, because we've played them.
Also in the same division,
yeah,
of course.
Yeah, they're in the same division. They're sort of around the bottom end, second to bottom, I think they are. But again, you know, the league is so close that nobody takes too much notice of where anybody is. And, you know, the last game we had against them was a 3-2 narrow victory with at the death penalty, but you know, won it 3-2. So, you know, they're all tight games, and nobody will be complacent just because at that end of the table.
And as you were just saying, there's been a lot of discussion lately in the football world about the magic of the FA Cup, and as it disappeared, I mean, I think you can safely say with cup competitions, you never know what's going to happen. No. And you've got another cup game coming up, the Hampshire Cup against Aldershot, which is, I believe, a repeat of the final.
Yes. Yep, we played them last year at Gosport in the final, and beat them very convincingly. So, you know, we ought to beat that team, you know, regardless what sort of what team we put out, really, because, you know, we're a cut above that sort of level. You know, I don't know how many divisions they are below, probably 3 at least, and maybe 4. So, you know, if we didn't beat that team, we'd be extremely disappointed. Well, we would be more than disappointed. It's not a feasible proposition, to be honest. We would beat them, and but we have to do it in the right manner, and that's what it's all about when you're playing games against lower opposition. You know, it's all about the right attitude in that game to take forward to the right attitude in the following game, which will be another big game, because it will be Lewis probably if we don't play this week. It will be the next round of the cup after that game. So we have to get it right on that day to take forward. Yeah.
And in terms of a result of another kind, the footballing result wasn't, you know, the greatest, but a game at Fratton Park this season, things are really looking on up the progression of the ladies, isn't it?
Yeah, really looking up this year. I mean, you know, we couldn't imagine how well it could go, really. I mean, we always had it in our sights that we wanted stronger links with the men, and you know, this season it's come quicker than we possibly thought it might, which is, you know, down to the football club. You know, Mark Catlin and Ian McGuinness and Colin Farmer have all sort of done their bit towards helping us. Alan Knight now is sort of, you know, an ambassador down there, and he's a link that we have with the club. So, you know, it's fantastic. You know, the fact that we've played a game at Fratton Park, yeah, the result didn't go our way, but, you know, it was a memorable occasion, even so, you know.